There is the story of 11 footballers, the children in a secondary school. They went to another school to play football, and those people played them a trick. They didn't give them lunch until it was 1 hour before they play. They were told the lunch wasn't ready. Then when it was just an hour before they play, they were called to the refectory. And there they saw all the things they ever wanted to eat and drink. And they saw them in large quantities. And as those players didn't exercise the necessary self-control, they sat down, rolled their sleeves, and began work. They did a good job of eating.
Right.
Until the whistle blew to go to the football field to begin the game. They had eaten and they had drunk too much. Every athlete knows that if you have a full stomach, you can't run 100 meters. You are not fit. You must exercise self-control. To cut it short, those 11 players went there and they were given a proper thrashing. 11-0, 1 goal for each of them they collected. They couldn't score a thing. They fell right and left all over the place. It was a total disgrace. Because they didn't exercise the necessary self-control. That's just a material thing. We can apply that to spiritual. If I am not able to control myself in little things, you will soon find that when a bigger temptation comes, it will become more difficult. So penance is necessary as virtue because it helps us also to control ourselves when something that is wrong is offered to us. Every one of us in life has opportunities to do evil. Sometimes. Temptations. No matter how holy we are, nobody should imagine that some people are so holy that they have no temptations. It's just self-deception. Everyone has temptation. I remember once students asked me in Nigeria, please, can you tell us what tablet you priests take so that in matters of chastity, you are able to control yourselves? I said, there is no tablet available in Rome for that. It is simply, you follow the gospel, you pray, you exercise the necessary self-control, penance, spiritual discipline in small matters as in big, so that when it comes to your duty, you can. Just as when you are studying as a student, you exercise self-control. You do not sleep 12 hours a day. You do not overeat, because if you do that, you cannot study immediately. You are sleepy. When you have an examination, you do not overeat 5 minutes before the exam. So apply that to spiritual. It is as simple as that. Of course, we need the help of God's grace. But God will not promise to work miracles for those who will not do their part.
I think Mother Teresa said it's our will and God's grace that will transform us.
Exactly.
Both our will and His grace.
So that's it is correct. That's the whole thing in question of mortifications, penance, as virtue. We all need it.
Now the penance in the sacrament, what is that? Well, here you got common sense advises mortification, and mortification which comes our way. You just mentioned that. I guess one example of penance and mortification would be applying penances to ourselves voluntarily and actually being able to, it's like spiritual exercise, I believe, right?
Yes, we can apply also penance to ourselves voluntarily. I do not mean therefore to say that because the penance, acts of penance that come our way, those we didn't choose, because they are safer, therefore we should not choose any ourselves. That would be an exaggeration. Oh no. We also need to decide on some acts of our penance ourselves. People will differ in their discretion, wisdom, prudence to decide on such. Some people will exaggerate and overdo it. For that reason, the spiritual writers said that most people will need some type of help. For instance, little children will need help. if the parents see that the child is not eating at all because the child heard about penance and therefore decided, I will not take lunch today,
Right.
I will not take supper. But the parent knows that that's not good for this child, only 10-year-old,
Right.
because the child will then have problems with health. So the father can say, no, you eat. There are many opportunities for penance otherwise. For instance, you want more salt in your food. You will not die if you don't put more salt. The coffee doesn't have the correct temperature. The heavens will not fall if you take it as it is.
Right.
The bread is not the correct
right.
quantity. You can accept that. So, and in bigger matters, those who want to use hair shirt or flog themselves, they should ask their spiritual director.
Right. One good thing would be to fast from television. This is something that we in America, or Western civilization, just do too much of, watching television.
Yes, I do not know the habits in this country, but television can become a temptation.
Oh, yes.
And in front of it, many people are ready to worship for hours, watching not necessarily very solid matters that build up. Obviously, a lot of mortification will be necessary there. And parents will have to help their children, presuming that the parents themselves are exercising the self-control over themselves.
Right.
Then they can teach the children how to do it too. It is very much a part of education.
By
And
our
it is the
example.
parents who can do it best towards their children. It is necessary. Because people can spend hours watching television.
I think this is one thing. Most of us don't think we're accountable for our time. We're very private about our religion. We think it's between ourselves and God, and which is true. God is the one that's overlooking it. But we don't feel that we're accountable for our time. We could waste time. The average American watches television 6 hours a day, 6 to 7 hours a day.
6 hours?
Yes, a day, average. It's unbelievable.
Well. I hardly have 30 minutes a day to watch the essential news.
Yeah, right.
I don't say 30 minutes is ideal, but one should ask first, is this program really building me up as a human being, as a Christian? That is crucial.
Right.
If the program is downright harmful, it's clear. You should turn it off. And not only turn it off, but write the people who produced it. If enough people put pressure on the producers, they may soon change.
That's true.
Then some programs may not be harmful, but they're almost useless. Then people should draw the conclusion. And there are so many good things that can be done. And there are many good programs. The people who produce the television programs can also produce very good things. And therefore, it is something for each of us. Everyone has a duty in this matter.
That's right.
Because the television is very powerful. It is good in itself, but it can be abused.
Now,
And there are videos that are very good. Why don't people buy such? Those that build up.
I think this is so true. We sort of let the television be the babysitter for our children.
Yes.
And this is so important to moderate what our children are watching. And with the working family today, and so many mothers having to work, the children come home from school, they turn on the television, and the television is forming the morals of our families today.
It is true. And spreading what it will call models.
Right.
How to reach achievement without putting it in so many words.
Right.
Invading the home quietly but effectively.
Because I think it's amazing how we don't really apply what we learn in the material world to our spiritual world. I know businessmen that have achieved material success have learned how to do that by controlling their thinking. They set goals, they don't allow negative thoughts to enter their mind, and they understand that they become what they think about it. They really lock in and they can achieve goals. It's a natural law. But so much more is it in the spiritual realm, because if we allow ourselves to watch television, have immorality constantly being programmed into our subconscious, eventually we start to live that way.
There is no doubt about it. There's no doubt about it. We cannot ignore the fact that we are influenced by what we see.
Right.
And the television puts it in a way that insidiously influences us.
Right.
No matter how much we think we are above all that, we are not above all that.
That's right.
We are influenced.
And this is why we think it's so important to form a neighborhood community of believers to reinforce that family, because our children and ourselves were being inundated with a foreign mentality that's just amoral and totally secular. And unless we start to pull together with other people and people within our neighborhood that love God, and it enters into our social life, it enters into our prayer life, it enters into our family, and our children are playing with other children of families of like thinking. This is what the Holy Father said: you just can't grow in the faith unless you build community. Community is so essential.
That is true.